Cornelius Johnson, a homeless man seeking refuge in a tent at an Atlanta encampment, was tragically killed when a 10,000-pound bulldozer crushed him during a city-led sweep of the site. The city was clearing the encampment to prepare for Martin Luther King Jr. weekend festivities. Ironically, the man whose legacy the city sought to honor once called for a radical redistribution of wealth and justice, not the bulldozing of the poor. Witnesses say that Johnson was asleep when the heavy machinery began destroying the encampment. Reports indicate that the city failed to do basic checks like checking the tent before commencing the sweep. According to the Atlanta Police Department, officers arrived at the 300 block of Old Wheat Street Northeast around noon, finding Johnson injured. He was then transported to the hospital where he was later pronounced dead. Atlanta, a city known for its wealth and rapid growth, has seen inequality deepen in recent years. Since the pandemic, housing costs have skyrocketed, leading to a 60% increase in unsheltered homelessness. To sum it up, the rich have never been richer, while the poor have never been poorer. Cornelius Johnson deserved more than a life of hardship and a death devoid of dignity. He deserved shelter, support, and resources, basic necessities in a society that claims to value human life. Cornelius Johnson's death should haunt all of us. Before you judge, just understand that many people in America are one paycheck away from homelessness. This situation and many others makes me wonder, how long will we allow the wealthiest nation on earth to be a graveyard for the poor? Many states in the Southeast are experiencing a once-in-a-lifetime winter storm that's barreling through, leaving a blanket of snow in its wake. Yes, you heard that correctly, snow. Parts of Louisiana are completely in whiteout conditions. There's snow in Mississippi, and meanwhile, Jacksonville, Florida, a city that hasn't seen snow in 35 years, closed schools in preparation of the storm. This unprecedented storm is expected to linger well into Wednesday, bringing bone-chilling temperatures and icy chaos to areas that are unprepared. At the time of this video, at least one person has tragically lost their life to hypothermia. In response to this historic storm, the governor of Florida has declared a state of emergency, warning that some areas of the Sunshine State might see up to 6 inches of snow. Let me repeat that. 6 inches of snow in Florida. So why is this historic? Because Florida is a land of the beaches, not blizzards. But thanks to climate change making everything weirder, we should probably get used to seeing these once-in-a-lifetime storms more regularly. So snow has already blanketed cities like Pensacola and Biloxi and New Orleans. Other areas are still bracing for impact, with the worst expected later this evening and into Wednesday morning. Officials are urging residents to stay off the roads due to black ice and stock up on supplies. Now, to our northern friends, no shade. We know you got your stories locked and loaded about how you trudged through 10 miles of snow, booty butt naked with nothing but a pair of socks on, and honestly, we do not care. We know your survival tales are legendary, but we don't care. Because down here in the South, snow is rare. It's an anomaly. We don't have salt trucks, we don't have snow plows, and some of us don't even have decent roads. Our infrastructure was designed for rain and hurricanes, not blizzards. So please spare us with the "y'all are just being babies" comments. Up north, your cities were built to handle snow. Down here, we can barely handle when it gets below 40 degrees. So to all my neighbors in the path of this winter storm, stay safe, stay warm, and if you can, stay home. Stock up on bread, milk, and whatever else you think you'll need to survive this once-in-a-lifetime event. Northerners, if you must comment, keep it cute or keep it to yourself. The 2024 election wasn't just about the economy or healthcare. It was shaped by a genocide thousands of miles away. Brand new polling reveals that the genocide in Gaza became a defining issue for Biden 2020 voters who abandoned Vice President Harris, shaking assumptions about what truly drives American voters. Let's get into it. When asked which one of the following issues was most important in deciding your vote, these voters ranked their concerns as followed. 1. Ending Israel's violence in Gaza, 29%. 2. The economy, 24%. 3. Medicare and Social Security at 12%, 4. Immigration and border security at 11%, 5. Healthcare at 10%, 6. Abortion at 9%, and then the rest they didn't know. Vice President Harris' refusal to break from Biden on the genocide in Gaza was especially critical in battleground states that flipped from Biden in 2020 to Trump in 2024. In these states, 20% of Biden 2020 voters who did not support Harris identified ending Israel's violence in Gaza as their top issue, second only to the economy at 33%. When examining key battleground states, it is clear that the genocide in Gaza was a tipping point in states where Biden barely squeaked by in 2020. In Arizona, 38% of these voters identified Gaza as their top concern. In Michigan and Wisconsin, 32% of voters in each state shared this sentiment. Data also showed that by a more than 3-to-1 margin, Biden 2020 voters who did not vote for Harris say they would have been more likely to have voted for Harris if she pledged to break from Biden's policy towards Gaza by promising to withhold additional weapons to Israel. Two things that VP Harris and her campaign refused to do. In fact, she made it very clear that she would not condition weapons sales to Israel, did not support an arms embargo, and Harris's campaign advisors made it clear that people shouldn't confuse the empathy she expressed for Palestinians with any willingness to break from U.S. foreign policy towards Israel as a presidential candidate. And I know that y'all are pretty tempted to call these people single-issue voters and blame them for the impending chaos that is set to consume us all, but many of them actively sought policy changes through protest and lobbying and other forms of advocacy, and time again they were ignored. For many people, the ongoing genocide in Gaza and its humanitarian consequences were deeply personal, often involving family members that were affected. The data challenges the inaccurate assumption held by many that the genocide in Gaza would not significantly impact the election. But after looking at this data, it makes me wonder what might have happened if Vice President Harris had taken a different stance on this issue. However, given the campaign's approach, we'll never know how a policy shift might have influenced the outcome of the 2024 election. Donald Trump assumed the presidency yesterday and signed executive orders in front of a live studio audience. Here are some of the executive orders signed. Buckle up. There's a lot, from expanding the death penalty to pardoning January 6th rioters. So there's a few on reshaping government operations. 1. Flags on Inauguration Day. Trump implemented a unique directive mandating that flags fly at full staff on Inauguration Day, regardless of any national mourning period. This decision overrode President Biden's prior order to lower flags for 30 days to honor former President Jimmy Carter. Flags returned to half staff immediately after Inauguration Day. 2. Reversing Biden's legacy. Trump rescinded 78 of Biden's executive orders citing inefficiency, economic strain, and what he termed unfair practices. These included policies on diversity initiatives, environmental protections, and social programs, which Trump claimed contributed to rising costs and over-regulation. 3. Federal workforce overhaul. Trump introduced measures making it easier to hire and dismiss federal employees, emphasizing adherence to his administration's policies. He also ended remote work arrangements requiring all government employees to return to office-based roles immediately. 4. Freezing new regulations. To streamline governance, Trump halted the introduction of new federal rules until they can undergo top-level review, and he implemented a hiring freeze for most federal positions with exceptions for roles in national security, public safety, and immigration enforcement. Get ready for more recalls. There are multiple in immigration and border policy. The first one, national emergency at the border. Trump declared a national emergency at the southern border, reinstating strict measures such as border wall construction, deploying military forces, and increasing drone surveillance. 2. Restricting refugee resettlement. The U.S. refugee program was paused indefinitely, pending a 90-day review to determine its continuation. 3. Birthright citizenship. Trump proposed changes to end automatic citizenship for children born to non-citizen parents, seeking to redefine the 14th Amendment. 4. Sanctuary city crackdown. Trump threatened federal funding for sanctuary cities. Moving on to economic and energy policies. 1. Declaring a national energy emergency. Trump aimed to reduce energy costs by declaring a national energy emergency. This move prioritized the expansion of oil, gas, and coal production while halting wind energy projects for reevaluation. 2. Exiting climate agreements. Trump withdrew the U.S. from the Paris Agreement and other international climate initiatives, ending financial contributions to these programs. 3. Protecting Alaska's resources. To boost domestic energy production, Trump lifted restrictions on oil and gas drilling in Alaska, dismissing concerns over environmental impacts. 4. Lowering living costs. Agencies were directed to identify ways to reduce the cost of essential goods and services such as housing, healthcare, food, and fuel. While the plan lacked specific mechanisms, it was framed as a response to inflation and rising costs. So I guess this was the concepts of a plan that he was talking about. I don't know. But now on to criminal justice and security. 1. He pardoned January 6 rioters. Trump issued pardons or sentence reductions for over 1,500 individuals involved in the January 6 Capitol insurrection. Some included Enrique Tarrio, who organized the insurrection. 2. Expanding the death penalty. New policies broaden the use of the death penalty, particularly for cases involving police killings or crime committed by undocumented people. 3. Security clearances. Trump revoked security clearances for over 40 former intelligence officials, citing concerns over leaks and political bias. Additionally, he streamlined processes for granting temporary security clearances to White House staff, sparking transparency concerns. Let's look at foreign policy and international relations. 1. Delaying the TikTok ban. Despite support from Congress and the Supreme Court for banning TikTok over so-called security concerns, Trump delayed the ban by 75 days, allowing more time for negotiations. 2. Withdrawing from the World Health Organization. Trump withdrew the U.S. membership and funding from the World Health Organization, claiming its handling of the COVID-19 pandemic was mismanaged and biased. The withdrawal could strip strip the organization of $130 million in annual funding. 3. Halting foreign aid. Most foreign aid was paused for 90 days to assess its effectiveness and alignment with U.S. interests. These are just a few of the executive orders signed on his first day in office. There are likely many more to come. It's unclear which of these orders will stick, given that there will be quite a few legal battles to address the constitutionality of these orders. I will keep y'all updated as new developments come along.